market tabloid. During her news conference today, she played audio tapes she claimed were telephone conversations between her and Clinton. It's not been verified whether it was indeed the governor's voice on the tapes. After her news conference, Governor Clinton accused Flowers of lying. He charged she changed her story for the money. And in a one-on-one interview with CNN's Gene Randall before her news conference, the Democratic candidate said he thought the issue was closed.
Governor, from what you've been hearing since last night, do you think now the subject of your personal life is behind you in this campaign?
I think if the voters are left to their own devices, it's long gone. I think that they believe that my wife and I said all we needed to say and all we should have said. Here in Mississippi this morning, just person after person after person came up and said, you know, I saw that last night. You said enough. It's your family. Don't talk about it anymore.
Clinton is scheduled to appear as a guest on Inside Politics tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern.
Faults from the start. The Flowers kept the story alive today by calling a press conference of her own.
Yes, I was Bill Clinton's lover for 12 years. And for the past 2 years, I have lied to the press about our relationship to protect him. The truth is, I loved him. Now he tells me to deny it. Well, I'm sick of all of the deceit, and I'm sick of all of the lies. Last night I sat and watched Bill on 60 Minutes. I felt disgusted, and I saw a side of Bill that I had never seen before. He is absolutely lying.
Clinton today continued to deny her charges, but how long can this campaign survive these nagging questions? And what about the role of the national press, who may have anointed Clinton the front-runner weeks ago, but won't let this story go away? Mona?
Frank Greer, I'm certainly no Clinton supporter, but there are few sights in this world less appetizing than the press in a feeding frenzy, and that's what's going on.
Absolutely.
We all watched that press conference. Since salacious accusations against public figures now seem to be the currency of American politics, I want to ask you this. How does Clinton maintain his dignity, and how does he keep from becoming a dirty joke?
Well, I will say that I think the voters of this country have really admired Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton for the way they've handled this. Let's keep in mind that the fact of the matter is this is a story that broke in a tabloid journal. They paid for this story. They paid this woman thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars to change her story. And Bill and Hillary Clinton have trusted the good sense and the people of this country.
I think there are a lot of people in America who are perfectly prepared to forgive an affair in the past. They're not concerned about that. What they are concerned about is, did he lie? And a lot of people are looking at her and saying, you know what, she's probably telling the truth. He had the reputation for having affairs. Why did he lie about this one?
She's not telling the truth, and Bill Clinton and Hillary have been more candid and honest with the people of this country than any person who's ever run for president in the history of this country. And I think that they deserve some credit for that. The fact of the matter is she is not telling the truth. I mean, Newsweek magazine today revealed that there were 12 major discrepancies in her story. She is not telling the truth.
Okay, let me bring Ed Rollins in here. Ed, among other things this paid person said today was that she was first approached to tell this story by the Republican Party in Arkansas. Now, given the fact that your party's had a long history of dirty tricks going white-bed to the White House.
And yours,
No. Now, the Republicans got a corner on this one. Not my friend Ed Rollins, of course. But, Eddie, listen, the Republicans have been pushing this story from the very beginning, haven't they? I mean, they were worried about Bill Clinton. They decided to go out and get him. They found somebody they could pay and get on TV and try to destroy this guy's credibility.
Bob, I certainly have no first-hand knowledge of any local person. I certainly know that the National Committee has not been involved in it. From our perspective, obviously, if we had this kind of a story, we'd much rather see this guy the nominee and have it come out. I think the reality is that Bill Clinton has had a reputation as a womanizer for a number of years. It's not a new story, it's an old story. I've heard this woman's name back in 1982-83 when I was in the White House. She was mentioned as someone who was attached to him or affiliated with him. And I think if he didn't have a reputation as a womanizer, and if the American public had a different position in their mind of what Bill Clinton was, most don't know him at all, it would be very hard to make this story credible. The problem is nobody knows who he is outside of the political community and outside of Arkansas. The first impression they get is not going to be a very good one. Either he's an adulterer, which he admitted to being, or he's a liar, which obviously she has to prove.
Ed, this morning you said that you didn't think Clinton could get through this. You're a veteran campaign strategist. George Bush had similar allegations in his presidential race in 1988 when it took his son coming out trying to debunk the story, if you remember back then. George Bush got away with it. Why can't Bill Clinton?
Because George Bush never had a reputation as a womanizer, and it was easy for him to deny because there was no truth and no one coming forth, certainly no woman coming forth. It was all rumors and innuendos, and obviously it got knocked down very quickly. This one's going to be much tougher to knock down, and the danger that Bill Clinton has if he stays in this race is there's no way for him to get his message through. She's going to basically be on every TV show, and there may be others who come forth to reinforce her message.
Okay, let's bring Steve Roberts into this as the defender of the press. This has not been a good year for the press, Steve. I mean, they spent the first part of this year poking around outside the alleged rape victim's apartment in the Kennedy Smith case. They asked the Pentagon a lot of questions like, what time are you going to attack Saddam Hussein? And now they're using the Star and the Inquirer as reputable sources.
No, that's not true. We're not using the Star or the Inquirer as reputable sources. What we're trying to do is strike a balance. We have an obligation to be fair to Bill Clinton and every candidate in this race. We have an obligation to our viewers and our readers to tell them everything we can about these people who they are voting on.
What would you define as unfair? Okay, suppose you had a convict who was in jail for perjury, who made an accusation, a woman, made an accusation against Bill Clinton. Would you say that it was up to you to bring out this fact, that it was the public's right to know?
Look, you make judgments all the time. You know that. We've all made judgments, journalistic judgments. But the fact is that we have learned from past history. We learned in the Gary Hart case. All of these are qualities which are directly relevant to a person's ability to perform the job as president. And we as a press have a duty to try to explain
you have a duty to do your jobs, and on this one, the major press in this country went in the tank. These guys, a number of news organizations went down there to try to prove this story and never could do it. So what happened? They let the Star do their dirty work for them. You know what's happened? A lot of major news organizations in this country become stringers for the Star magazine. That make you proud of your profession? It was a disgusting display of journalism masochism on a guy that may or may not have had this problem, but if he did, why don't you guys go prove it instead of relying on that rag, the Star, to prove it?
They don't have to prove it. He admitted that he has this problem.
And then
that's not a subject of debate.
Steve Roberts can sit here and tell me that the press is clean on this and they didn't rely on the Star?
Just a minute. I think you have to learn to express your opinions more forcefully. You're too timid. And I think that there is a...
I ain't done yet either, pal.
I think that, look, I'm not defending the Star. I am defending legitimate news organizations who say this is a crisis in his candidacy. As one person said to me, I quoted in U.S. News this morning, if he can't handle this crisis, how is he going to handle Kuwait?
No, it's a crisis because you folks have created a crisis based on a tabloid that paid for this story, paid someone to change their story. And the fact of the matter is, let me be clear about this. It is not an issue of Bill Clinton and womanizing. The fact of the matter is, he said last night, as a lot of people in this country, he has had problems in his marriage, but they stayed together. They made a commitment to each other, and they made a commitment to their 11-year-old daughter. And you know what you're trying to do? You're trying to destroy somebody based on tabloid journalism, trash for cash.
Not fair, Frank, because I think his defense actually was very good. I thought it was very legitimate. I think news organizations should have carried it. He had his chance to respond. He did it very well, thanks to your sage advice. But you know, and I know, Frank, that these rumors have been out there, as Ed Rollins said, for many months. You and I know that your campaign has
there's no truth to them because no other news organization, no legitimate news organization has ever been able to prove anything.
Frank,
and the fact of the matter is that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have been honest with the American people. They said they had problems in their marriage. The fact is, we ought to look beyond this to the real issues. This is destroying politics in this country. Frank, it is destroying this country because we're not able to deal with the real problems like jobs and housing and health care because you people are focused on this trash. And it's time that you stood up and said no.
Your campaign has had a game plan for many months to deal with this, not if it came out, but when it came out. You knew it was going to come out because you knew the rumors were there and you knew the problems were there. And it's disingenuous of the campaign to say, oh my God, we're responding to the Star. As Ed Rollins said, these rumors have been here all along. If this was a story about the sex life of Paul Tsongas, no one would have cared because no one would have, there wasn't the underlying...
Okay, we're going to have to take a break. We can talk more about this when we get back. When we come back, we will hear more about how the press picks a president.
Crossfire is brought to you by GE. From plastics to financial services, we bring good things to life.
Imagine your refrigerator with bigger door shelves for bigger bottles, with leftovers left in quick-serve trays for leftover space, more space, nearly 27 cubic feet, and a door in the door for things you use more. Imagine GE's Space Center 27.
Something's waiting inside the powerful 486SX computer. A technology that will make it even more powerful. We call it Room for the Future. Introducing built-in upgradability. Check into it. From Intel, the computer inside.
I need a laxative that can work dependably.
Doxadan can.
But can it be gentle?
Doxadan can. Doxadan works dependably overnight with a special ingredient for gentle relief.
Dependable, yes. Gentle, yes.
Doxadan can.
Every time it rains.
The Discover card pays a cashback bonus on every penny you charge.
Pennies from heaven.
It pays to Discover.
Wednesday night on TBS, perennial contenders collide. It's Milwaukee's muscle against the airborne arsenal of Atlanta. The Hawks and the Bucks, live at 8:35 Eastern Wednesday night on TBS.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We're talking about the Bill Clinton brouhaha and the manners and morals of the press, if there are any to speak of. Defending Governor Clinton is his media advisor, Frank Greer. Defending the press is Steve Roberts of U.S. News and World Report. And defending the proposition that infidelity matters in politics is Republican strategist Ed Rollins in our New York bureau. Bob?
Okay, let me bring Ed Rollins in on this question about the press. Ed, how do you think the press has done during this whole thing, and what's your reaction to the quote, legitimate press using the Star as their source?
Obviously, Bob, we've all been in campaigns. You and I are old veterans, and the press gets used in a lot of different ways. I think most reporters try and cover a story as effectively as possible, and the truth of the matter is they sort of set a false standard, and I think that's where Clinton may have gotten faked out in this round. The false standard was the new Gary Hart rule. Everyone knew Gary Hart had cheated on his wife for years, ever since he was the campaign manager in '72, but the new rule was past affairs don't count, only present affairs count. If you get caught after you say, go follow me, that's the rules of the game. I think Bill Clinton entered this race saying, I'm going to basically duck this thing from start to finish. Reporters went and looked at it. They set the standard. Obviously, this woman's come forward. They've got to cover it in some way, shape, or form, or they'd be irresponsible.
Well, yeah, but Ed, let me ask you a question. I mean, you say that infidelity really matters, and I'm going to ask you...
Mona, it matters to an awful lot of Americans.
Well, but let's look at the last 10 presidents, okay? I can think of 4 right off the bat who certainly had affairs. Roosevelt, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson. I can think of 2 who certainly didn't, Nixon and Carter. Based on that list, are you going to defend the proposition that infidelity is a good guide to good presidents?
No, but let me just be very, very clear, and you should be very clear. Obviously, those were affairs that weren't known, and the press probably wasn't as responsible as it should have been, particularly in the case of Kennedy, where editors of major newspapers were the running mates and went out and fooled around with Kennedy when they were both all chasing women. It's a brand new rule, but there's an awful lot of Americans out there today who don't know these candidates. Bill Clinton may have been a very fine governor of Arkansas, but the vast majority, 80% of the American public doesn't know who this guy is.
Yeah, but Ed,
so as he gets defined,
everybody's acting as if we've just discovered sin. I mean, the fact is, there are all kinds of things about Governor Clinton that the press should have been telling us, and instead they've seized on this, which they understand and which brings in ratings.
There's a large segment of the American public, if they would have known that Kennedy was cheating on his wife, probably wouldn't have voted for him. If they'd have known Eisenhower was cheating on his wife, if that's true, probably wouldn't have voted for him. The bottom line today is that this man has admitted his adultery. It's up to the voters now to decide, just as he said. They said last night they're going to roll the dice. They've rolled the dice. It may come up snake eyes, but the bottom line is the American electorate today is going to know a lot more about Bill Clinton than they knew about John Kennedy.
All right, Ed, Mr. Frank, go ahead. You want to respond to that? You rolled the dice?
Here's the one thing I would say, Ed. The fact of the matter is what they've said is they have a real commitment to their family, to each other, to their 11-year-old daughter. And the fact of the matter is they have a commitment to the families of this country in terms of making life better, providing jobs and health care and education. And that's what's important to the American public. They don't want to know about the past. These people have been more honest than anybody in the history of American politics, and the fact of the matter is they're committed to their family, to each other, and they are committed to the people of this country, and that's what's important, and the voters are going to decide this ultimately.
No offense, Frank. No offense. But the bottom line is from the day you started this campaign, and you're a tremendous campaigner and strategist, but from the day you started this campaign, you knew you had to keep this thing to a certain extent under wraps. And they've had a shield from the time that he first went to a Sperling breakfast with reporters and bought his wife and defied anybody to ask the question.
They didn't defy anybody, Ed. That's not true, Ed. That is completely not true. What he said is, we have had problems in our marriage like many other people in this country.
Well, most Americans haven't committed adultery.
But we are committed. That's not true, Ed. You don't know that for a fact.
Well, most Americans aren't running for president.
The fact of the matter is, what's important is they're committed to each other, they're committed to their daughter, and they're committed to this country.
Can I ask you one fast question, Steve Roberts, the defender of the estate tonight? CNN has made a decision not to do this, but another major network tonight ran bites from that tape that woman who was paid to give this story, who's changed her story, who's got, in my view, no credibility at all. Do you think a major network in this country is being responsible by running tapes that, A, they don't know the voice on that tape is Bill Clinton, B, this woman paid to get up there and give that press conference?
And
now, can you defend that for me?
No, I'm not going to defend it.
Okay, so the media's been wrong on this.
No, I think we have to be very, very careful in what we do. I think we have to make judgments repeatedly. In our magazine this week, we ran 3 pages, not 6 pages. We ran it at the end of the U.S. News section, not in the beginning. Did not have it on the cover. We're trying repeatedly to make
These are nuances at the end. Let me tell you something. You're destroying politics in America, and you're destroying... I'm telling you,
we're trying to make reasoned judgments about trying to provide information that people need. You want to say that the campaign is about issues. It certainly is. But it's also about people. It's also about character. It's also about judgment. 3 years from now, the American public is not going to know what is 19-point program in education. They're going to want to know about
more about that. What about the double standard? No, there is a double standard that's being applied.
And if we don't do that, Mona, if we don't do that, if we don't do that, the viewers are not served by our responsibility to them.
Right, but there is a double standard that goes on here because there are candidates running in the Democratic primaries now who are divorced. Presumably they had affairs that led to their divorces, who knows? But in any case, why is it that somebody who is divorced doesn't have to live up to this high standard where somebody who kept his marriage together and stayed with his child does?
Actually, that's a very good question, and I agree with you about that. I think that Bill Clinton, by staying married and by coming out and saying, look, we've had problems, but we're still married, we're working on it, we have a child, I think that's a moral viewpoint, and I think I think that there are a lot of people in this country who are going to listen and say, "Hey, well, I've had similar problems, and I can understand that." I think we should not set a double standard on that, and I don't think Hillary Clinton was absolutely right when she said that Bill and I would be better off politically if we gotten divorced.
Steve, quickly, one letter answer. We got to take a break. Give the press a grade A to F on handling this story. Honestly, what do you think tonight?
B minus.
God almighty. When we come back, we'll ask what happened to everyone's 1992 resolution, that this would be the year of serious presidential campaigning, particularly by the press.
Hello, I'm Susan Rook. At the top of the hour, the woman who says she had a 12-year affair with Bill Clinton faces media questions. Jury selection begins in the trial of confessed killer and cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer, and a look back at how Macy's went from ritzy retail giant to Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Prime News is right after Crossfire.
All our science, all our technology, all our mathematics, our computations, somehow they all add up to moments that are beyond any calculation. Princess to Alaska. It's more than a cruise. It's the Love Boat.
What happens when you buy Purina Biscuits brand dog snacks? You get a coupon worth $1.50 off any Purina dog food. Here's how it works. Buy Purina Biscuits, get $1.50 off. Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off.
Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off. Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off. Purina Biscuits, $1.50 off. Purina.
Remember, with Purina Biscuits, you'll never have to pay full price for Purina dog food again.
Nice dog!
Welcome back. We're talking about Clinton's troubles and his future. Ed Rollins, let me ask you a question. Before I do, let me just say I did not mean to imply that I had any personal knowledge about affairs that Democratic candidates might have had. I just said it's possible that people who are divorced. But Ed, let's look at it this way. I can think of a dozen sins that are worse in a presidential candidate than lust. I can think of power lust. I can think of greed. Why is it that the press is so preoccupied with sex?
Well, you know, sex and drugs is the magic formula today to get on the news or be in the front pages of any kind of a sensational publication like the Star. But the bottom line is that I think the American public holds political people to a higher standard. At least they want to. And I think there's a certain segment of Americans who aren't going to vote for someone who they felt committed adultery. And I think that's maybe unfortunate, may not be open-minded, but it's a reality of life today. Now, the problem with a case like this, if Mario Cuomo, if someone would have paid $50,000 for a woman to come forward and say that Mario Cuomo had an affair with me, no one would have been believed it. There was no history there. Bill Clinton's problem is, whether it's real or imagined or what have you, there's been this reputation for womanizing, and obviously that's why there's some credibility.
Okay, Steve Roberts, you stood up well to my very tempered remarks tonight. Now, let me go back to where we went out of this, the last segment. This was to be the year of substance, the year of issues. We're all going to try to get away from this hackneyed old presidential campaign style of covering the campaigns and the press reporting them. Are we now back where we started with Gary Hart, and are we going to just have another year like this of one personal story after another? Well, with or without Bill Clinton, I mean.
Yeah, I think that the press is determined to try to write about substance. I've written several lengthy articles about Bill Clinton's very interesting ideas on education and welfare. I don't know how many people read them, but I can tell you we wrote them. That's part of the problem. You know, that we can't determine what the public reads and what it listens to. I hope we do stay on issues, but I think there continues to be a misapprehension here that somehow issues are the only factor in a campaign. And we as journalists do have this responsibility to let people know about judgment. I keep saying that, but you're not listening to me. The fact is that so much of what modern campaigning is pre-programmed, pre-scripted. Frank makes his 30-second commercials. Someone else writes their script. That doesn't tell you all that much about who these people are. And we have that responsibility so you can make the judgment.
Okay, Frank, quickly, response?
Well, I've just got to say that judgment is something that I wish the news media would be exercising more on these days. And the fact of the matter is, what's happening here is it's an extension of Willie Horton. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we had Willie Horton that trivialized the last presidential campaign. You had a president with no mandate to do anything about the problems of the country. And so we slipped into a recession. People are hurting. This country's in deep trouble. And now we have this trash from a tabloid paying for a woman to say this, and what's going to happen is we're destroying the political process. We'll never be able to deal with the real issues we're facing.
Frank, you got the final word. I want to thank you, Frank Greer, Steve Roberts in New York, my old friend Ed Rollins.
Thank you.
Mona Charon and I will be back to straighten this all out and straighten the press out in the process.
It's Grand Central Station. It's Carnegie Hall. It's a late-night bistro and a banquet hall for 50. It's a GE Monogram kitchen. With GE Monogram appliances of such dramatic beauty and original style, they have no equal. So with Monogram appliances, your kitchen can be everything you ever dreamed it could be. Because you may call it a kitchen, but at GE, we know it's really your living room.
So, Mr. Dortmund, you're telling us that for this alleged $75, you received a full kitchen with refrigerator, a living room with fireplace, and breakfast? Is that, Mr. Dortmund, what you would have us all believe?
Yes. Residence Inn by Marriott, the extended stay hotel.
Flu epidemic declared. Entire U.S. affected. What will you do? Doctors recommend Theraflu, hot liquid medicine that works fast. Theraflu, strong therapy for flu symptoms.
The voices of American voters.
Washington, D.C. is going to have to listen.
I think people are disappointed.
We keep having to compromise.
Jobs everywhere.
That the new middle class cannot survive.
Frustration is running high this election year.
I really don't know what we're going to do.
In a 2-hour special, you'll hear how Americans really feel about crime, unemployment, education, 10 major issues that will define this election. The People's Agenda, a Democracy in America special, February 2nd on CNN.
Mona, I was proud of you tonight. You and I don't usually agree on many things, but I'll tell you, this is a miserable way to start a presidential campaign when there's a lot of serious issues that need to be debated before the American public.
Well, I'm amazed that we do agree. It was a tawdry spectacle, though, watching the press carry on like this. And I don't have any grief for Bill Clinton. I don't really even wish him well, but I don't think he deserves this.
I don't think he does. I don't think any of these candidates do. From the left, I'm Bob Beckel. Good night for Crossfire.
From the right, Mona Charon. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Crossfire.
Prime News is next. Here's Bernie Shaw with a look at the headlines. Bernie?
Thank you very much, Bob. We'll have more on the he said, she said controversy dogging the Clinton campaign. Also, jury selection has begun in the rape trial of boxer Mike Tyson. He's accused of attacking a Miss Black America candidate. And the United States Supreme Court rules on restrictions for so-called dial-a-porn phone services. Prime News is next.
Coming up, Prime News, followed by Larry King Live after a word from your local cable system here on CNN.